Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Howdy, all y'all. This is red.olaughlin, and we're on the USA Global TV and Radio Network and on the E360 TV network. And this is a Talking Head show. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because we do have truly a worldwide audience. And if you're missing a show live, you can always find it on YouTube on the archives of the USA Global TV. We started out a while back. Let me get my slide set up here for today. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, never been in the pharmaceutical industry. I'm a researcher. I research the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationship. This chemical molecule bumps into this one, something happens. Well, can you slow it down? Can you speed it up? Can I stop it completely? I look for what happens in that chain of events. And as you go from one particular chemical to the next, to the next, to the next, there's a progression. And you look at disease, the disease progresses in a certain way. And that's what I look at. So if I'm looking for a cause and effect, I'm looking for something that if I treat it, I have a good potential of actually making an impact on that disease or whatever I'm trying to control. But if all I'm doing is treating the symptoms, putting a Band-Aid on it, then I've done nothing, because I'm always going to be treating the symptoms, because the symptoms are a byproduct of that cause. I believe our health and our wellness are our responsibility. It's not our parents, it's not the doctor, it's not someone else. Now, obviously, if you're a toddler, the parents are responsible. If you're a child, the parents are responsible. But there's a certain level in there that we have our own responsibility. And as we start getting into those teenage years and on, all sorts of things become distractions from our true health and wellness. As always, this presentation is primarily for education, awareness, education, so you can make a better decision down the road. I believe this is week 5 or week 6, I think, pretty sure. Anyway, we've talked about the topics that are there, our mindset, getting everything going. Last week, we talked about stress management. We talked about what our expectations are for our health. And then we started getting into the front end of diet and nutrition and what are our choices. I'm hoping to finish that up today. I'm not sure we're going to get all the way through it, but we're going to make a good stab. But we still have other things to talk about. So I'm looking at another 2-3 weeks, pretty sure. So let's get right into this thing. One of the things I'm thinking about, I was driving around this morning, had a doctor's appointment, and for whatever reason, a 1963 Firestone tire commercial occurred to me. They used to have this thing where this tire is going down the road and there's big hands coming out and grabbing the road. It's, where the rubber meets the road. Okay. That was very, very explicit. That you have that rubber touching the highway. But if I look at my health, where does the rubber meet the road in my health? I mean, obviously I'm breathing all the time. That's one aspect of it, but the rubber meets the road in our diet, because we're now taking food from the outside that has the nutrients that we need on a daily basis. We're putting it into our bodies, and magic happens down in our gut where the nutrients are extracted, pass through into the bloodstream, and then delivered to all the cells in the body. That is where the true rubber meets the road. So from 1963, don't ask me how that deals with optimal health, but to me, it's important. If I have one area that I'm looking at for optimal health that I really and truly need to control, it's not going to be stress. It's not going to be exercise. It's not going to be toxins. It's not going to be sleep. Yeah, they're all important. They're all very important. But the real true important aspect of that particular where the rubber meets the road in our health is in our gut. And that's dependent on the diet choices that we make. And as I'm looking at commercials, one of the other ones I love, and I'll refer to it fairly often, I've written about it more than a couple times, is the Fram oil filter commercial. Pay me now or pay me later. Talking about if you don't take care of your car, the oil doesn't get changed. You're in there for higher bills. You take care of the oil, boom. We had I want to say it's a Dodge or Chevrolet, it doesn't matter. It's a pickup truck. And the guy was driving at 800 miles a day in Georgia, postal contractor. And within a few years, he put 1 million miles on the car. Same engine. He basically sold the car, got a new one. The people who bought the car took the engine apart and said the engine inside was immaculate. He had changed the oil every 3,000 miles or whatever the recommended was. But if we're taking care of ourselves the same way, pay me now or pay me later. I'd much rather pay later and have good health all my life. Okay, I'm 92 years of age, I start having a problem, as opposed to being 42 years of age and I have so many restrictions on my life. But when I'm looking at my diet, we have a lot of things that we can think about before we even enter the choice of buying something right now off the shelf, fixing it on the stove, picking it up at the restaurant, eating it. So what are our true expectations? And the expectations are important because expectation is a word that connects with our subconscious mind. My wants and my needs connect to my conscious mind, which really has no control over whatever I want to do. But if I expect to be eating nutrient-rich foods, those are my fruits and my vegetables, my healthy fats, my healthy proteins. I'm looking at portion control. I've told this to many, many people. If you want to control your portion, just change to a salad plate. Don't go back for seconds. I'm used to eating yes, you're used to eating a big meal, but control the portions. Now you're cutting back on the size of the calories. You're cutting back on a lot of things. Your body doesn't need everything that's on that plate, which is evident from a lot of problems with weight and fat. But from a perspective of overeating, portion control is one of those aspects of being able to control that overeating. Now, why do we overeat? There's many causes. Probably one of the biggest ones is stress. We have a comfort zone. We have habits. We have lots of things. But if I can start curbing from an expectation perspective before I ever sit down to eat, okay, I know tonight I'm going to use a salad plate. I can take those other dinner plates, set them aside where they're harder to get to, and I just take my salad plate out, and I've been doing this for years and years and years, and it's a fairly easy thing to do. It's rare when I put a regular sized plate on the table, usually when we have guests over for Christmas or something, but most of the time we just eat off a regular sized salad plate. So what are my causes for overeating? Again, that's individual. You're going to have to say, I had so much. Was it really because the food tasted so good? Well, maybe. Was it the environment that I was in? It just, everything was half price. I could buy anything I wanted. And look, there are many reasons we overeat. I had to be really careful when I go to all you can eat kind of place, because yes, I will definitely overeat. But regardless, look at what is the cause of your overeating. Fiber is one of those things we don't usually think about very often. We have, you have your water soluble and your insoluble fiber, and they both aid in digestion. They help manage our appetite a little bit. So fiber is a major portion of our meal. Now, I was on Atkins diet there for a long time, and I found out that because of my diet choices, I had to have excess fiber every single time I ate. And it just became a habit. Now, every day I go out, if I'm eating somewhere, I have fiber in the car. We get back to the car. Okay, my wife gets the fiber pills out. I take mine. If I'm here at the house, as soon as I get done with my meal, I have my fiber. So I have the fiber from the fruits and vegetables that I eat, but I also have the additional fiber that I can control based on what did I actually eat. If it's a lot of protein and not very much roughage, so to speak, yeah, I need the fiber. Hydration. Something a lot of us don't think about for whatever reason. Filtered water, is is preferred. If you're using tap water, yeah, they may be able to control a little bit of the mercury and other chemicals out there. But one of the things that our city water supply does not control at all, and you probably have 100, at least 100 different dissolved prescription drugs that are in the water system. It's just, that's the way it is, because they don't have the ability to filter it out. But it's one of those things your body is getting. So yeah, be careful with the ice cubes you get, uh, with any kind of non-filtered water. Okay. I want to limit, from an expectation perspective, the processed foods I'm eating. These are the things in jars and cans and packages. If I'm not buying it and it's a piece of meat that's been very little processed, I'm buying a chicken leg or uh, a side of whatever it may happen to be. How much processing has gone into that food? 1976 is the year that scientists believe obesity epidemic started in the United States. It started from ultra processed foods. All of a sudden, uh, the manufacturers of food found that, hey, I can add this and this and it tastes better. It lasts longer. It's preserved better. It looks better. The colors are brighter. All of a sudden, we started getting ultra processed foods. And around 1976, wherever those foods happened to go, if I were in India, that processed food didn't get over there in 76. It was a little bit later. But if you take people who are living in India, come to the United States in that time frame, then the obesity epidemic is with them. And so one of the ways of looking at what am I eating is look at the glycemic index. It's basically a numeric way of saying how much does my blood sugar rise 2 hours after I eat something. And it's based on one piece of white bread as a value of 100. Okay, 100. Everything else is based on that, and they measure how much this blood sugar is rises over a period of time. So if I'm looking at bread and I'm saying, okay, that's a carbohydrate, that's a wheat or some kind of grain. But if I just look at sugar and I take a teaspoon of sugar, the glycemic index of sugar is much less than it is for bread. It's still high. I want something well below 40 or 50 on the glycemic index. The lower, the better. But we have some different ways of identifying sugar in a particular product. And so when you look at the label, there may be 4 or 5 things in there that are sugar, but they all have different names. And that becomes a problem. Yeah, I may only have so many grams of this, but because it's a sugar alcohol, it's not measured into the same category as the other parts. But the highest one that I found is maltodextrin, which is a sugar. It has a value of 100. I thought it was 165. 185 is what it says there, but maybe that's my typo error. I thought it was 165. But anyway, the glycemic index, if you're not familiar with it, great help in being able to set some level of expectation. But if a lot of your foods are, you open the cereal box in the morning, you pour the milk in, everything that comes out of a container has some level of processing. You want to try to minimize that as best you can. Okay. If I'm looking at an expectation of what can I plan, I have certain things. The first thing I do when I go into a store is I'm in the fruits and vegetable area. That is where I do most of my shopping, most of my time. What do I have? And I look at everything. I try to buy organic as best I can. And then from there, I kind of wander down past the dairy into the meat section. All those other aisles in the center of the store, almost never go down them. Occasionally, yeah, I've got to go down there to get something because we ran out of whatever. But most of the time, I'm going around the outside edge of the store. I got my fruits and vegetables over here. I got my refrigerated dairy and whatever back there. I got my meat section over in that part of the store. And I can come right back and never even touch the center of the store. So, but if I'm planning for meals, okay, what's the event? What am I doing? Other people joining me. So from an expectation perspective, I should be able to plan some healthy meals. How many? Well, how healthy do you want to be? A lot of times we're stuck with what we call snack planning, and we just go to the machine. It's an ad hoc choice. I don't have a choice because I don't have something there that I brought with me. Well, sometimes you get hungry and you just go to the snack machine, or if there's a cafeteria or whatever where you happen to be, boom, you load up on stuff. But let's say it's 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and all of a sudden you're hungry. Uh, what are you going to go get? This is a time today before you get to tonight. Okay, if I'm going to have a snack, what it's going to be? Well, maybe I'm just going to have cheese and turkey and no bread, whatever. There are certain things you can do. Maybe I just need a celery stick. Maybe I need something else. But so, am I hungry or am I dehydrated? Many times I'm dehydrated. Drink the water, come back 10, 15 minutes later. Am I still hungry? Maybe. Okay. Am I hungry or is it a habit? Okay. If I wake up in the morning and I expect to eat breakfast because I've been doing it for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years, it's a habit. The Western culture says breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Eastern culture says, I don't care whether you have breakfast or not. It's not that important. I find that it's actually very easy. I don't eat generally until around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I bypass breakfast. I have my iced tea, unsweet, and water, and that's about it. At some point in time later in the day, I'll have something to eat. But our hunger, we get these little hunger pains in our stomach, and they're real. It's a hormone called ghrelin. And that ghrelin says when my stomach has been empty for a while, it's going to knock on my brain's door and say, hey, give me some food. And then once you start getting some food, then leptin takes over and boom. Now I say, oh, well, you got enough. But part of the problem is we don't realize we have enough. And so some people say, well, maybe I need an appetite suppressant. And there are many of those supplements out there in the market. Avoid them if you can. Some people may have a very hard time trying to crack that ghrelin hormone or the habit or the hydration. But if you can avoid the appetite suppressants, fine. Proteins are great appetite suppressants. There's a number of others. An expectation can be mindful eating. When I'm eating, what am I feeling? Because those feelings when I'm eating are communication between my brain and my gut. So that communication goes back and forth. When I have good food down here, I get to a certain level, and actually there is a chemical reaction communication line that goes straight from our gut to our brain that says, okay, I'm sated. I have had enough. I don't need any more. And believe it or not, it actually occurs about halfway through a meal, whether it's a salad plate or not. And somewhere through there, if you're actually listening to your brain, you'll get that feeling. It may only last a half a second. I was unaware of it totally. I had a class on hypnosis, and the guy was talking about these things. And it was one of those ones that if I'm looking for it and I know it's going to occur and I get about halfway through my plate, I can feel it. And I can push that plate away and I don't need anything else on that plate. But what about if I'm in a restaurant and that's a $40 meal and I'm pushing $20 worth of food away? Well, maybe I just need a doggy bag. Maybe I felt it and it says, that tastes so good, I really need to finish it. There's many reasons why we keep eating. One of the biggest ones, we're just unaware of the fact that we have enough food. Sometimes it's cost there, but those are things that you can figure out as you become more aware of how your body's operating. When we start looking at reducing our sugar, cravings are really big. That craving you have for a lot of different things, especially sweets, is something that can be controlled. Your proteins, your diet, fats, your healthy fats, those things are very good at removing the craving. The sleep that we get, if it's good quality sleep, we generally have less cravings. So if I can remove the temptations, and I'm thinking in advance, I'm expecting this in my diet. Okay, maybe I have a sweet craving. Okay, I'll get a half a dozen raspberries and half a dozen blueberries, and that's my sweet cravings. And there's enough sweetness in there. Berries are a great option. Dark chocolate is another great option. And the scientists have found that many times, and this is with most people, we're deficient in magnesium. And when you're deficient in magnesium, the cravings for sweetness occur. So maybe you need to supplement more on magnesium. A lot of different things there. Stress causes our cravings for sweets. Are you stressed? Yes, everybody's stressed. It's not what happens to us. It's what we reach out and grab a hold of and don't let go. When I go on a 72-hour fast, it doesn't matter what's going on out there. I can smell some of the best Chinese food out there, some of the best burgers. It just blows right by me. If I'm not on my 72-hour fast, boy, that smells great. We act differently. We have a mindset that we can actually turn around when things are there. If my stress is causing me a problem, is it because of my boss and I'm bringing it home with me? Is it the traffic and I don't leave it at the car door when I get out of it? Is it a spouse? Is it kids? Is it finances? There are many, many causes of stress. But at some point in time, we got to let it go. Just let it go. Because if I allow that stress to build up, I have 4 times more fat storage cells around my gut, my belly, than I do anywhere else in my body. And therefore, stress to store fat. That is one of the stresses primary. You have cortisol, and that's one of its primary functions is to store fat. So if I'm allowing my sweet cravings to control what I eat because I don't address that expectation in advance, then that's what's going to happen. But sugar is so addictive. It really and truly is. Some people try to get off of it. They get serious headaches. They got shivers. They got all sorts of things. So maybe it's one of those things that you don't go cold turkey, but you really cut back a lot and you find out what you can substitute. Balanced nutrition really does. I mean, our bodies need around 32, minimum 32 nutrients on a daily basis. We are balanced. Generally speaking, we don't have cravings. But if I'm deficient in B12, vitamin D, magnesium, and many others, we find out that our cravings go up because of that vitamin or mineral or nutrient imbalance. Continuing on our expectations. If I want to eat well, that means I probably have to cook well, or I need to buy foods that are cooked well. Well, I should be avoiding as best I can anything is deep fried. I fry stuff maybe once a year. I'm just trying to think the last time I fried something has been so long ago. Why do I want to avoid deep frying? There's this thing called an AGE, advanced glycation end product. These are things that are formed when proteins, in fact, react with high temperature. So if I'm grilling, I'm toasting, I'm roasting, I'm broiling, a chemical reaction occurs. It's called a Maillard reaction. And it's generally around 300 degrees, give or take a little bit. And you start seeing these black marks on the edge of your barbecue, whatever, the grill marks is what they talk about. Well, these advanced glycation end products, AGEs, make food taste great. I mean, shout Tony the Tiger. It does taste great because you see the color. We expect it to taste better. We expect the flavor to be there. So textures, everything's wrapped up in that grill mark that's on the food we're eating. We eat with our eyes first. That's what you hear from so many people. That food comes out and looks so great. I got some really nice char marks on the outside. Bite into it. Oh my goodness, it tastes so good. But if that's all I'm eating, I'm filling up not only with the AGEs, but I'm filling up with the vegetable oils that are not healthy for me. I end up with a lot of things. And it's not just the steaks and the meats that we get. We get roasted coffee. We get toasted bread. There's a lot of places that these AGEs come out. Now, maybe you've never heard of them, but they are massive contributors to health concerns down the road. You may be eating, let's say barbecue 4 times a week, and it looks good, tastes good, steak, whatever. Those things, because they taste so good, they introduce inflammation, additional oxidative stress. We know that disease starts at chronic low-level, cellular level inflammation in the body. If we're not controlling that inflammation at the cellular level, boom, then we end up with oxidative stress, which has problems of its own. Left untreated, now we start having a lot of problems. Dementia, heart disease, renal failure, obesity, cancer. Many, many, many things from a disease perspective come from chronic low-level inflammation, and AGEs is a major supplier of that level of inflammation. So I look at what degree of glycation is there. Do I have burnt marks all over everything? Is my toast completely burnt? Do I need to scrape it off? How much did I have? How often am I having it? What do I really prefer? Well, steaming takes a little bit longer, maybe a little bit more involved than grilling, but baking, boiling, poaching, stewing, sauteing, choose a good healthy oil. if you're doing some kind of sauteing or whatever. But those are much more healthier ways of eating. Let's see here. I think I'm going to leave it. I can slow cook, sous vide, pressure cooking. Those are all good. Steaming, probably one of the healthiest. Deep frying is one of the worst. There's advantages and disadvantages to the various cooking ones, but one of the biggest ones is the cooking oils. I cook with butter and with olive oil and with coconut oil. I avoid vegetable oils as best I can, but coconut, butter, ghee, they're all good. There's goods and bads both associated with air fryers, and that's something that if you're an air fryer user, you probably need to do some research on your own. And I'm going to leave it right there with the air fryer. So the next time we come back in, we'll talk about proteins. And with that, let me go on down here to toward the end. Back up one. On the USA Global TV and Radio archives on YouTube, lots of my programs are there. Just look under Talking Heads, red.olaughlin. And from today, I think what I'm going to talk about is longevity secrets for healthy aging. There's two primary causes for aging. They're both in the book. What can you do to accelerate your aging? What can you do to slow it down? Longevity secrets for healthy aging. It's on my website. It's in Barnes & Noble on Amazon. And with that, we'll be back next week and continue on our diet on this optimal health for 2024. Take care, y'all. Bye now.